Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Superfeeler podcast. My name is Lori, and I'm joined today by Ryan Harland, who is the author of the book Riding the Storm, a memoir of mental illness. Ryan's going to talk today about his experience with borderline personality disorder, also known as emotional intensity disorder or emotionally unstable personality disorder. So, Ryan, do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey, your diagnosis with BPD, and how you got here?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, but we're finally here. I got diagnosed back in 2017 with my borderline personality disorder, and that was due to all the trauma I faced as a child, teenage years, and so on. And it kind of, the day I got diagnosed made sense, and it made me find out who I was for the first time in my life. I felt like I actually knew who Ryan was and why I do the things I do.
That's such a familiar concept for so many of us. I think the common thing that I hear is like, oh, it was relief. Like I finally had some sort of an answer. How old were you when you got diagnosed?
I was, I'm trying to do the maths now. um, yeah, 40. I was 40
Okay.
years old. Yeah.
And had you been diagnosed with other mental health issues in your past?
Yeah, basically, they just reckon it was anxiety and depression mostly through my life. They just put it down as that, gave me tablets and told me to go away and gave me the usual counselling for 12 weeks, 15 weeks, however long it was. But that never done anything for me. Do you know
Right.
what I mean? It
Totally.
was
If you're
just,
not actually dealing with the right thing, then it's not very effective, right?
yeah, I found with counselling before I was diagnosed, I'll do the 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 15 weeks, however long it was. And by the end of it, I was starting to understand a bit more and I was feeling a bit better. Then they send you back out into the real world and there's no follow up. And then you go back down the same path and that you have to go back to see a different counsellor and starting right back at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that was never any good because I was going over ground that I've already covered before. So that's my experience with mental health before I got diagnosed.
And was that through like the NHS primarily?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a couple of private ones that I paid for myself, but they were no different, to be honest.
Yeah. And it's like not very easy to be able to pay for how the actual intensity of treatment that we actually need, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It was
So,
so generalized. They
right.
wasn't, do you know what I mean? They didn't focus on one bit. They just wanted the whole story and basically just let you say how you was feeling, but that wasn't fixing anything.
hmm Yeah, I remember like as a teenage like preteen teenager or whatever, I was like sent to like anger management counseling or whatever, and it was like, well, okay, but that's not very helpful because the anger is coming from emotion dysregulation, but nobody knew that.
Mm,
So what I really needed was like emotion dysregulation counseling, not just like stop being angry because nobody was
yeah.
like looking at why I was being angry, right? So yeah, totally feel you there. And so what has helped you in terms of kind of I don't know how you feel about the word recovery or like whatever you this place you feel right now where you're doing a little bit better.
It was obviously first of all being diagnosed, and they put me on group therapy courses called Steps and Stairways. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Yeah. I think there's a
Um,
couple of other episodes of people in the UK that have gone through
yeah,
steps, I think for sure. Yeah.
yeah. Steps was first, and that was amazing for me. I loved it, and I know that sounds weird, but I felt like I actually belonged somewhere for the first time in life. I was in a room full of people who thought exactly the same as I did, even though we had different upbringings and different reasons why we was there, but we all thought the same. We all dealt with problems the same, and I embraced everything they threw at me. It was like that was my opportunity to find out who I was, and yeah, it changed me. It really did.
That's amazing. We're out of curiosity, were you the only man in that program?
At the end of it, yes, it was me and one other gentleman, but I don't think he was open to changing, so he made it very difficult. And I think he left after 2 or 3 weeks. But the rest of them were all women.
Yeah,
And
that's so common.
I loved it at the time. I was in the room for the women, so I was loving it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was weird to know that I was the only man there who was, wanted to deal with this. It was crazy. But like you say, not many men open up and want that help.
No, or are comfortable going to groups because of like the whole macho man, you've got to act a certain way kind of deal.
Yeah.
So is that why you wrote the book?
No, I started writing the book just before I got diagnosed. The original plan for my book was to just talk about my childhood growing up and my brother's growing up. But obviously, whilst writing that, I got diagnosed, so it kind of changed the dynamics, and it goes into a little bit of my mental health in the book and that. But a lot of it was just to get my story out there of what me and brother went through, so others who have been through similar know they're not alone in going through traumatic experiences as kids, teenagers, and that.
And if correct me if I'm wrong, you've lost your brother, right?
Yes, yeah, I lost him back in 2007.
I'm sorry, that's hard. So do you want to talk a little bit about your story growing up, just about kind of how you maybe got here? Like I assume that a lot of that contributed to your diagnosis.
Yeah, growing up, mine and my brother's childhood wasn't great. We had the best mum. My mum is still and always will be my best friend. Me and my mum have got a very close relationship, even though I don't see her every day. I make sure I ring her 5 o'clock every day just to check on her. I go and see her at the weekends and that. But unfortunately, the flip side of that, I don't say this word easy when it comes to him, father. In my book, he's known as sperm donor or SD because that's who ever was. He ever was. He was a narcissist paedophile. Basically, he sexually abused my brother between the age of 5 and 15. None of us knew about it, and he got me. Not got me, but that sounds so wrong. But he eventually got to me when I was 19. Now, normally when I tell people how old I was when it happened, they say to me, well, you should know better. You were 19, you was a man, you this, you that. I say, yes, I was, but you forget about all the build up, all my years of 19 years, there was little things that he was doing. He used to beat the hell out of my mum all the time. So we grew up doing whatever he wanted to please him. So my mum didn't get hurt or anyone got hurt or shouted at. So that was kind of ingrained in me. And then whenever I was around him, I was always that little boy. Even though I was taller than him, bigger than him, stronger than him, it didn't matter. I was always that little boy. And obviously, when I was 19, like I said, he sexually abused me.
I'm sorry that anybody says like you should have known better or done something. Like that's not the reality of how these things work. So that's super invalidating. And yeah, I mean, like our parents hold a weird amount of power over us. So even if you were 30 when that happened, it's still a weird dynamic that like your family member holds that power. Did your dad or sperm donor or whatever, did he live with you and your mom and your brother?
Up until I was 11, my brother was 4 years older than me, so he would have been 15. So obviously that's when it stopped for him.
Right.
They separated, like I said, when I was 11. But obviously I hadn't experienced that side of it. So I used to still go and see him at weekends for many reasons. The mostly reason was if one of us went to go and see him, then mum wouldn't get any crap from him because he's seen one of her kids. And at that time, I never understood why my brother didn't. Later on, I did in life. And my friends were still over where he lived. So I kind of used him for that fact to go and still see my friends. And that was like that until I was 19. And that was the last time I ever stayed at his flat because he moved to get in his flat when I around that time. That was the only time I made sure I was ever in a vicinity with him on my own.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I feel like at 19, that's just like such a rude awakening of like, oh my God, this person is even worse than I thought they were, right?
Mm. Yeah, it's weird to say because where we grew up, we lived on an island just off the southeast coast of England, and everyone knew their business there. You know, whatever happened, everyone knew about it. And he was always in that of papers for different things, like being a peeping tom. If you heard of peeping tom,
Yeah.
he used to take random men back to his house. That would have been one of his rumours. He stole money from the local council. He'd done so many things that was always in the local paper. So that kind of painted the picture and made my life hell at school even before anything happened.
Yeah, I bet, because you're being probably bullied about stuff that this man did that you're not even feeling close to.
Oh, definitely. When I was going for my final exams when I was 16, he made the national paper, the big one, because he went to be Father Christmas up near London. And him being such a narcissist and basically he thinks he shit didn't stink, he come and told the local paper, oh, I'm being Father Christmas up in London. But because they knew stuff about him, they contacted the main press and that was all over the main spread. This is just when I'm going for my main GCSEs, we call them over here, exams, and it totally ruined me because, like, people, I know no one ever said anything to me, but I just had the impression people look at me saying, you're the son of a paedophile, you're the son of a bloke who does this, you're the son of a bloke who does that. And that was when my life just went downhill fast, even before I got abused.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you were abused just in a different way
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
sexual abuse, yeah, but there's a lot of other kinds of abuse that are incredibly harmful. So your brother did disclose to you eventually, or were there like criminal charges? Like, how did that kind of come about?
When I was about 26, I was due to get married, and I thought one day, well, if I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this woman, I'm going to be open and honest. I never told anyone, and I never heard about Kevin. He never told anyone. So I told my then to be wife. Years later, we've separated, divorced, and things like that. But obviously, at that time, then she gave me the confidence to tell my mum. Then she said, well, you got better ring Kev, let him know, because he moved to London when he was 18. And that's when we found out about Kev, but he didn't want anything done about it. He said that I've dealt with it my own way. I don't want anything done. Do you respect my wishes? I was like, okay, yeah, fair enough. So we kept it quiet until it was the end of 2006, beginning of 2007, not long before Kev passed, that we had an incident that Kev, living in London, went up to Manchester to see some of his friends, he said, but he went up there to meet a guy because my brother was gay. Didn't bother me. I loved him no matter what. And he got date raped by three men up in Manchester. And I got a call the following morning from him where it was a voicemail saying, Ryan, help me, I don't know who I am. So we rung his phone back and the Manchester police answered and said that they picked him walking the streets. So we had to drive all the way to Manchester, and that's when things started happening. He told Manchester police, and that kind of got the ball starting. And so we spoke to the police about it. I done an official statement. My brother hadn't yet because he had to go back up to London because my brother at that time had full-blown AIDS and hepatitis, and a couple of days before he done his official statement, he was in hospital and he dropped down dead with a burst aneurysm at age of 33, which
Oh my God.
absolutely destroyed me, let alone mum. My mum was heartbroken. And so we still went ahead with the case. they said that on Kev's statement alone, if made it official, SD was looking at 10 to 15 years, but they could use his unofficial as a character witness. They could. The laws have changed over here that they could bring up old cases because he'd been to court before. The worst he ever got was a 2-year suspended sentence for different things. So we had all this big case that was building up. Then a couple of days before he was going to the big court over here, SD dropped down dead. Before it went.
Oh my God.
Yeah, with a brain tumor. And it's weird because.
Holy shit.
It's weird because when I got the call from the hospital saying that we think we've got your, they said the F word. I can't say. Even though I'm a dad myself.
Yeah, that's
I'm
fair.
I'm a dad myself. I can call everyone else dad, but when it comes to that, I don't know what it is. I struggle. Anyway, they said we have your here. And in my mind, I was thinking, you're lying. He's trying to get out of this. So I went up to the hospital.
Yeah, that would be my first thought too, because like that timing is too suspicious.
So I thought I've got to go and check if this is true. So I went up to the hospital. The nurse, ever so lovely, she pulled me into the side room first and said, and I explained what was going on. She said, "Well, he's in there, he's unconscious." Said, but he can still hear. This was just before he died. I think he was in a coma or something. So I went into the ward, pulled the curtain around the bed, sat down beside him, and softly but sternly said what I wanted to say or what I was going to say in court into his ear, got up and left. Then the next morning, I got a call saying that he passed away. And I broke down crying. And I don't think that was tears of, oh my God, he's dead. I think it was like, oh my fucking God, he's dead. He's got away with it. He's got this. He's got away with that.
Yeah.
And that's when my life took more of a downfall than actually getting abused by him or all the shit I've had as a child through school and that. And that's where my life went bottom. I just didn't care about myself anymore. I had an affair that ruined my marriage. I'd had 2 girls by now. I was drinking, drugs, sleeping around. I was doing whatever I could to try and get some affirmation in my life and to get some purpose. And that went on until 2017 when I got diagnosed. So that between 2007 and 2017, my life was hell. I've been in that of relationships. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I've had an affair that ruined my marriage. The marriage wasn't working anyway. I should have done it properly, but at that time, I just wasn't thinking straight. I just wanted to ruin everything that was in my life because I felt like, what's the point? I felt let down and that. So for them 10.
Chasing the chaos that you grew up in, perhaps.
Yeah, and looking for that affirmation because I felt like I didn't know who I was or what I was doing anymore. So them 10 years were pretty hard time.
Yeah, I mean, that's so much to happen in such a short period of time. And I don't know about you, but for me, my borderline has like a very big component of like justice. Like I really think I just have this like fixation on justice, and to lose that justice or the potential of justice so close, like after you've all been so brave and shared and like, I mean, I feel like the timing is wild of that for both him and your brother, actually.
It's shit. It really is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I've come to terms with it now and that, and I've kind of got justice in my own way. Obviously, writing my book and that, like it's taken all control away from him. I control it all now.
Yeah.
And I do as much as I can to celebrate my brother's life. That even though he was really ill, he didn't die anything to do with his HIV or full-blown AIDS and hepatitis and that, but he kind of abused his life the same way I did. Obviously left to London at 18, he sleeping around with different men and things like that, and obviously that's how he caught his HIV in the first place and that. And the drugs, he was a big cocaine head, which I didn't know until later on in life, So he, even though he said he dealt with it, he didn't really deal with it,
Totally.
Yeah. He just couldn't see it at that time.
Totally. And he was making himself feel better.
Yeah.
Like if that's what you consider dealing with it, right? Like I'm sure he made himself feel better, but obviously like not dealing with the underlying trauma piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think moving away as far away from the island to London. I think back then, obviously, the gay scene around where we lived on the island wasn't great. So obviously, going to London, that was more his scene. But I think there's many reasons. It's like I get away from the island, so I'll go there. I'm away from him, away from everyone. I can be who I want to be here and that. And obviously, it was his downfall in the end. But yeah, I miss him. I miss him, but
I bet.
Especially not so much me from my mum. Do you know what I mean? Because she was his firstborn. No, he was her firstborn. Sorry. Yeah.
Right. The other way around. Yeah. I know what you mean.
And and she still cries about it now. It's obviously 14 years now. No, my maths is crap.
So was mine.
17 years.
You could tell me it was 30 years and I wouldn't have any idea.
Yeah.
I can't count to 10.
17 years this year. It's crazy. So much has happened in that time.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I know you said that the writing of the book kind of helped you take back control over the narrative and your dad's power or your sperm donor's power. But have you done has there been any other trauma work that's really helped you kind of come to terms with or deal with all of the trauma that you experienced as a kid?
I'd say the Steps and Stairways courses that I've done with a massive, massive help. But to do with the trauma, I kind of had to do that on my own, I guess. I think writing that book made a huge difference. It was such a journey I went on writing. It took a couple of years to write because I struggle. Obviously, I can write, but my brain and mouth go so much quicker than my hand. I can't do it. So I got a ghostwriter in and she came around my house once a month. So it was basically like I was paying for another counselling session once a month and I was just spewing off and everything. And the way my mind works, I can start here and I think, right, I'll go to that bit there, then I'll go back here and I'm like up like all over the place. So she kind of helped me put it in order. But I think, yeah, like I said, writing that book or getting that down on paper, that kind of gave me closure on a lot of things, a lot of that trauma. Obviously, I've still got scars from it. I still have my bad days like everyone else. And I still struggle with my temper and my impulsiveness and my emotional regularity. I can't say regularity.
Regulation. Whatever.
That sounds better.
Yeah. Whatever you want to call it. We all know what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I still go 0 to 100 just like that.
Yeah.
I think I always will do.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what I do, I think I'll always have that burst of 100% emotion on anything I do.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a blessing, but sometimes it's a curse as well.
100%. It's I was just writing an article earlier today and I was saying there's the balance. And I think that if you really look at it, the positives and the negatives do balance each other in the end, but it's really hard to see that when the negatives are taking over.
Oh God, yeah. When I'm down, I'm really pissed off. And people don't understand, obviously, to them, the things that we get pissed off about are really tiny, but to us, they're massive.
Exactly.
And try and explain it because I've got a new partner now and we're getting married this August.
Oh, congrats.
And thank you very much. And she's been such an important part of my life for the last couple of years. She gets me, but still times that she doesn't get me. And that's the bit that I struggle with because I could lose my temper over anything. I don't get, obviously, not physically that, but very vocally. And the amount of abuse that can come out of my mouth sometimes. And It's
Yeah.
awful. And when you look back, you think, why are you saying that? But when you're in that moment, you can't control it. You got to, it's like, I find I always take out the ones I love the most. And
Absolutely.
I don't know why that is. Are you the same?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I think it's because they trigger us extra. Not intentionally, of course, but
No.
just the
Yeah.
connection. Whereas somebody, well, I don't know, I do get really pissed when I'm like driving too. And like like that kind of thing. I'll get really angry, but it won't be like long-term anger. It'll just be like, fuck
No.
you, like whatever. But that's it.
I'm the same. When it comes to driving, oh my God, there's so many bad drivers on the road now. Or it might not be, but
Yeah.
obviously I must think I'm the best.
I
And
was
if
gonna say
someone
I'm
cut,
probably one of them, but I think that everybody else is.
I'll probably do it. Excuse me. I'm probably the same as others. But if someone cuts me up at that or doesn't signal or anything like that, I'm like, you bastard.
Right?
And my missus is sitting in the car and looking at me saying, why are you getting so angry? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. My husband's the same. I'll be like, oh, you want to cut me off? I'm gonna cut you off. And then he's like, dude, it's not worth it. Like, just stop. And I'm just like, no, but I'm gonna go get it. It's like, it's literally, you're just gonna hurt yourself. Like, it's don't do this. Like, it's not worth
Yeah.
it. But so I mean, I think in that sense, my anger can come like with strangers, but it is often, I think, like the actual deep hurt definitely is more for the people that I care about the most. And
Yeah.
I know one theory about that. I don't know if I believe it or not. Maybe I do. Is like that we're testing them to see if they'll leave us. Like
Yes.
subconsciously, of course, but we're like, well, if I
Yeah.
say this, if you actually love me, will you leave me, or is this the line? And we're kind of testing that line. I don't know
Oh yeah.
how you feel about
We
that.
have to push as far as we can push them, don't we? We
Hmm.
want to really test them, and it's so hard. I'll always look at my BPD outbursts that are like, I'm going through a tunnel. I can see all the destruction going around it, but I can't do anything about it till I get out the other side of the tunnel. Then come and fix things, make everything look nice and pretty and that again. And it's so draining and so emotionally, I don't know, fucked up. Do you know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
like the amount of times we go through these things, you just think, why are we hurting the ones we love? But like you said, it's like we test them. We're gonna see if they do actually mean what they say when they say that we love you, we care for you, things
Hmm.
that we're gonna be here no matter what. I think it's like we don't believe them. It's like,
Yeah.
why would
Because
you want?
why we
Why
don't
would
think that we're valid for that either. Like we don't think that we deserve them. So we
that?
want to like prove that, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I still think like I don't deserve after things I've got in my life. I've achieved so much, and I'm like, well, but that was nothing really. Anyone
Hmm.
could do that. But then when I think about it, I think, well, no, not everyone could do that because what I've been through, some people wouldn't be able to deal with that. So,
Totally. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
so
And
I,
like we're also doing it while we're emotionally dysregulated and completely exhausted by the fact that we're having this many emotions and we're still thriving. And that's hard to see because it feels almost like is this fake? Like am I
yeah,
in like a weird like Truman Show type like game where everybody else knows that I'm an imposter, but I don't know, that
that
kind of thing?
Truman Show, that film, that that's how I felt for so many times in my life. Because you think that, am I the only one who's going through this? Am I the only one
Mhm.
who's different to everyone else? Everyone actors, and I'm the only person who's open about how they feel and what they see and what they've been through and that. Why is no one else like that? Why am I? You know, and when I watched
Yeah.
Truman Show for the first time, that blew my mind. I thought, like, well, that kind of makes sense. That I must be like that. So I
Yeah.
was
You're
looking for
like, wait a
hidden.
second.
I was looking for hidden cameras and things like that.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So you said that you have kids, right?
Yes.
How has that been? Going through so much childhood trauma and then having kids.
Um, at the start, it was hard because obviously no one knew about what I'd been through because I obviously kept quiet. Obviously, my close family knew, but living on a small island, which we did, everyone knowing what went on in the papers with that and what he'd done, I always thought that people were going to look at me and think, well, you're the son of him, so you can do anything to your kids. So I wouldn't change my first daughter's nappy for a while. I wouldn't be left in the room on my own with her. I didn't think people see. I know in my heart of hearts, I would never do anything like that. But I didn't know how other people would think, and do they trust me and things like that. So I thought, if I don't put myself in them situations, then they can't judge me or anything like that. But so having kids was hard at first. You know, it's like you second guess everything, and you think that, oh, is it hereditary? Is it one of these things that passes through generations? Because you hear it does. But then I looked at my daughter's eyes and I was like, I could never do anything like that. You know, it's not in me.
Does that hurt more that your father or your sperm donor could do that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was like I never existed. I was just another thing. I wasn't his son.
Right.
I was just, I don't know, there was obviously no bond there at all.
Yeah. Which is so, I don't have kids, and I don't want kids, partially because I've had such a weird relationship with my family that I just can't imagine. But, you know, you hear people say, like, you know, the minute you have a kid, that they're your everything and your entire world changes. Yeah. And then you think about parents who, like yours, or others who struggle with or seem to be so in their own little world of like narcissism or whatever. And you're like, how the fuck, like, how are you so different? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how are you just not capable of feeling these emotions towards your kids?
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of them do blame their childhood, like what they've been through. So I remember when Esty was arrested for what me and Kevin was trying to get him charged for, and that he turned around and said that my granddad done it to him, and that ruined my memories of my granddad, because my granddad was lovely and that. But the police did say a lot of them use that as an excuse to try and get sympathy and more leniency on their case. But I know it probably does happen. But
I think like it for sure does, where it gets passed down. But also, you know, it's also our responsibility to break those cycles.
Yeah, because you think that you know how much it hurts and how fucked up it messes your life. Why would you want to do that to the next generation, your own flesh and blood? Do you know what I mean? I can't comprehend how that works. I don't know if it's because I was the one to break the chain, if there was a chain, or what. I really don't know. But I just can't comprehend what goes through their head to think that, it happened to me, so I'll just pass it on.
Keep it. No. Yeah, I mean, I like to think that they just are so unaware that they don't even think about it, which is not pleasant to think about. But you know what I mean? Like, where they're just so in their own world that there's no conscious, like, I'm doing this to hurt you. It's like, I'm doing this because this is what I want or whatever. Like, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah. The thing is, that makes it sound more wrong and demonic, doesn't it? If you think, well, I'm doing this to hurt you. I mean,
and I'm sure that happens too, right? Like I can guarantee you. Yeah.
Well, this world is fucked up at places, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It is. It's getting worse. In a lot of things, but I'm just in my heart of hearts that I could never ever do anything like that. It's just no.
Yeah. Well, and you've also done a lot of work too, right? Like you're taking responsibility for your own like behaviors and actions and emotions with the BPD, which is probably something that like your sperm donor and his dad and whatever maybe didn't do that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I guess so. It's weird. I've just always had this feeling in my stomach that I'm here for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I found the reason now, obviously with the book and doing my public speaking and things like that. And I was, it's going to sound weird. I was meant to have gone through all that to become the person that I am today, and I think that's how I've dealt with it all and kind of taken control of it, thinking, right, well, there was a reason why I'd done that, and
Mm-hmm.
because I am who I am now, and if I hadn't gone through that, what type of person would I have been? And I
Yeah,
love me now, so thank you, if that makes sense. Not thank you for doing what you've done,
totally.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
it happened, and now we're moving forward and making the world a better place because of it. And I guess, right?
mm,
That actually brings me to a question that I really like to end episodes with. So I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about yet before I ask my final question.
no, unless we can do another one another time.
Yeah, we always can. Yeah, always.
Yeah.
So my last question is, what is your favorite thing about borderline personality disorder?
I guess we kind of touched on it. It's the thing of 100% each emotion. When I'm in love, I'm so in love. When I'm happy, I'm so happy. And I take the piss out of myself all the time and make other people laugh and things like that. And I know that's part of my personality. It's because when I'm in that state, I'm bouncing off the walls and that. So I guess it's the way I feel 100%, even though when I'm angry, I'm really pissed off and that, that's part of it. But I know
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not being fake in myself and I'm just being my personality. Do you know what I mean? So I think and I'm
Totally. So
able to
genuine.
see hurt in other people just by looking at them. And I know not many people can do that, but I find, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you're the same, but I can see the pain behind people's eyes and people's
Yeah.
smiles and that. And I know that I can just say to them, "You're right." And if they say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," you think, well, you're lying. So I'm going to say, ask again.
Yeah.
Give them that opportunity.
Yeah. I say my answer to that is always,
Yeah,
that's not very convincing. And then they usually open up and
yeah.
say the
And
actual
I
thing that's
love
going on
that,
for
to
them.
know that you
Yeah.
can understand people, even though it's a curse because you don't get yourself back from other people. But it's nice to know that
Mm-hmm.
when people know that you are who you are, that they can come to you and open up to us because they know that we're not going to judge them. We're not going to say, "Oh yeah, we understand. Oh, you should this, you should do that." We're just going to give them that space to let off what they need to let off, and they're going to feel so much better in themselves just talking about anything. I love that. I really do. I don't know if that's a BPD
Mm-hmm.
thing or not. I guess it is. Yeah,
I think it is.
yeah,
I think it is. For a lot of us, at least. Yeah. I've heard similar
yeah.
responses, and I definitely resonate with that for sure. I can feel with people, and I can read
Mm,
people so much better than anybody else that I know, and be there for them
yeah,
because I have that empathy. And I don't find I really liked what you said about like the only thing is that we don't get that back from others. And I do think that that's a challenge, right? Is that we have so much to
yeah.
give, but we don't get back what we need.
And that does piss me off sometimes, especially when I'm in a bad place.
Yeah, me too.
Just a quick thing. I remember this last week I've had a bit of a crap week, and I was at work, and one of my friends said, "Oh, what's up with you today?" I'm just having a bad day. He said, "Well, you're not allowed," and I lost it. I think he was only joking, but I said, "Oh, what? So I'm not allowed to have a bad day, but I'm allowed to be there for you when you have a bad day, you when you're having a bad day, you when you want to talk, you when you talk. But when I want to have a bad day, you'll say, 'Oh, cheer up,' or do this." That's when the difference. I noticed the difference, and that's when it's a negative for me.
Totally. Yeah, we're the ones who are like pumping up the room and like energized and passionate. And it's like, well, when we're not, people notice. And it's like, but also I can't be like that all the time. That's not reality.
Yeah.
Well, I'm exhausted just thinking about that. But Ryan, it was so nice to finally get to know you. And I'm so, so glad. If I'm ever in England, I'll come hit you up.
Yeah, definitely. I like that.
So yeah, it would be great to meet you in person. And just thank you for sharing your story. I'll link your book in the show notes of this episode as well.
Awesome.
And yeah, you'll hear from me soon.
Hopefully one day I'll have a film of my story so you can watch it as well.
Beautiful. Yes, please do. Yes, if you ever do, let me know.
That is in the pipeline.
We'll promote it here.
In the pipeline for one day, hopefully.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Today's episode was recorded on the unceded and traditional territory of the Matsqui and Sumas First Nations. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps me reach more listeners like you, and we're always looking for improving the podcast. Remember, you can always stay connected with me on social media. You can follow us. The show notes will have all of the details for Instagram profiles. If you want to support the podcast and help me continue to bring great content, please consider joining the Superfeeler community on Patreon. Your support really means the world to me, and there's a variety of different options for support, including some free ones. For all information about the Superfeelers Club, which is the peer support that we run, including upcoming events and resources, head over to Eventbrite or laurieedmondson.com for more information. If you have a topic that you want me to cover or a guest you'd love to hear from, please send me the suggestions. Always happy to hear them. Until next time, keep on superfeeling and living authentically. This is Laurie signing off of the Superfeeler podcast.